Picture this: a lonely island, waves pounding against jagged rocks. The sky is gray, gulls wheel overhead, and on the sand stand two men. One, elegant, polished, his sword gleaming like lightning. The other, rough, unshaven, carrying nothing but a wooden oar he carved on the way. In a few moments, one of them will be dead. And Japan will never forget what happens here. This is the story of Miyamoto Musashi versus Sasaki Kojiro, a duel that still teaches us how to fight, how to live, and how to adapt. Before the clash, let's step back. Who were these men? Musashi was chaos given human form. He fought his first duel at 13 and killed a trained samurai. For decades, he wandered Japan, penniless, fighting constantly, never losing. He slept under bridges, on battlefields, in barns. His training ground was survival itself. Kojiro was the mirror opposite. Tall, handsome, admired. He trained in respected schools, refined every move, and perfected a technique called the swallow cut, so fast it could split a bird mid-flight. Where Musashi was a storm, Kojiro was a blade of sunlight. Their meeting was inevitable. And in a Japan slowly settling under Tokugawa rule, when battles were fading, duels like this became legends that defined honor itself.
To understand how we reached this island, we need their backstories. Musashi's youth was brutal. After his first kill at 13, he challenged anyone who would face him. At 16, he fought the powerful Yoshioka school in Kyoto, one of the greatest lineages of swordsmen. One by one, he cut them down until the school itself collapsed. It's as if a teenager walked into Harvard Law and destroyed the entire faculty in debate. Kojiro's rise was quieter, but no less dramatic. He studied under great masters, absorbed every detail, and opened his own school. His reputation soared. Students traveled across Japan to learn his art. He was known as Ganryu after his sword school, the very name the island would later take. By the early 1600s, whispers grew louder. Only one question mattered: who was the greatest swordsman alive? And everyone knew there was only one way to find out. Kojiro believed in perfection. His nodachi sword, called the drying pole, was longer than most men's height. In his hands, it was not awkward, but beautiful. Every slash was poetry. Musashi believed in unpredictability. He often fought with two swords, invented new stances, and used the terrain itself as his ally. He didn't polish a single perfect move. He studied rhythm, psychology, the mind of the enemy. Unorthodox. Scrappy. Dangerous because you couldn't predict him. One man was tradition and refinement. The other, raw invention. The duel was more than men fighting. It was philosophies colliding. April 1612. Ganryu Island. Kojiro arrives early, immaculate. His blade gleams. His posture commands respect. Officials and witnesses nod. He looks like a champion. But Musashi is nowhere in sight. Minutes pass, then an hour. The crowd whispers, "Is he too afraid to come?" Finally, Musashi's boat glides in. He steps off slowly, hair wild, still whittling the last chips of wood from a carved oar. This is his weapon. A crude wooden sword, longer than Kojiro's nodachi. Kojiro's pride ignites like fire. He hurls his scabbard into the sand and roars, "You will never need this again." Kojiro strikes first. His nodachi arcs with the swallow cut, emotion too fast to follow. Steel whistles through the air like a hawk diving, but Musashi is already moving. He reads the rhythm, sidesteps, raises the oar. One breath. One step. One devastating strike. The oar crashes against Kojiro's skull. A crack echoes across the beach. Kojiro staggers, eyes wide. then collapses into the sand. Silence. Witnesses stare in shock. The duel, the greatest in samurai history, ends in a single blow. Two men fought. One mastered elegance. The other mastered adaptability. Kojiro fell. Musashi walked away. But both became eternal. Their duel was not just about swords. It was about how we face challenges, how we adapt, how we endure, and how sometimes victory belongs not to the strongest, but to the one who sees differently. Musashi continued to fight a handful of duels and even took part in a few wars. By the end of his life, he had claimed victory in more than 60 duels. In his later years, however, he turned away from conflict and chose silence over battle. He moved into Reigandō Cave, far from the noise of the world, where he lived as a hermit and turned his sword into words. There, he wrote the Book of 5 Rings, a guide not just for fighting, but for strategy, rhythm, and the way to see clearly in chaos. By 1645, the book was finished. Sensing that his time was near, he gave the manuscript to his most trusted student, leaving behind wisdom instead of weapons. On the day of his death, Musashi prepared himself like a warrior. He tied his belt, placed his short sword at his side, and sat upright with his cane in one hand and his blade in the other. At 62 years old, he faced death as he had faced life, with discipline, courage, and calm. Though his body rests beneath Mount Iwado, his spirit lives on in his words, and in the lessons of a man who mastered not just the sword, but himself. On Ganryu Island today, a bronze monument stands where Musashi and Kojiro once crossed blades. The statues capture the moment of their legendary duel. Two figures frozen in steel in motion, reminders of discipline, pride, and destiny. They guard the very ground where history was written, a place where Musashi's victory became legend, and Kojiro's name was etched into eternity.
That's the end of this video. Would you like to see more of it? I hope so. Let me know in the comments.